Good morning, dear hearts. We are on lesson 71, and please subscribe. So today's lesson is only God's plan for salvation will work. We again use happiness or freedom. Only God's plan for my happiness will work. But now say, wait a minute. Yesterday's lesson was my happiness, my salvation comes from me. So are these two ideas in contradicting each other? Well, no, because only God's plan for salvation, for us to be saved, for our happiness, for our freedom, that's the plan that will work. But it is up to me to accept it. So there's this wonderful plan, but if I don't accept it, and it's up to me to do that because I have free will, then it doesn't matter how perfect God's plan is. If I reject it, I won't have it. Today's lesson, I think, is very pivotal. It's a very important lesson. It's not a giant stride. It's not identified as a fave for me, but for many it is. But it's a real awakening kind of lesson. Lots of awareness is given to us in this lesson. First of all, it tells us that there are two plans for salvation. One's preposterous and one has possibilities. The preposterous one comes from the ego. And the ego's plan for my salvation is always going to be that if something outside of myself would change, then everything would be hunky-dory, all would be well, but it has to change and it has to be not me. It has to be all of them, those people. They must change, not me. And that's why it will never work. That's why the ego's plan, no matter how often we go back to it, and we have gone back to it many, many times, but it will never succeed. On the other hand, we have God's plan for salvation, and God's promises always are kept, but we must be willing to seek only God's plan for salvation. Otherwise, our purpose is divided, and you will attempt to follow two plans for salvation that are diametrically opposed in all ways. Another way of saying, we cannot serve two masters. So we must make the decision, is it going to be the plan for the ego, which is always going to tell us, seek, do not find, or will it be God's plan for salvation, which has the probability, even more than possibility, of succeeding because it's already accomplished. The outcome is certain in God's plan. We must remember that all things are possible with God, and basically nothing is truly possible without God in my life. And so in order to place God in my life and to put God in charge of my life, I have three questions that come up during the practice period, but I believe and I teach very much to apply these questions to your life all of the time, certainly in the morning when we first wake up. And the questions that we are to ask the Holy Spirit or God or our elder brother are, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? And what would you have me say, and to whom? And then be quiet and wait and listen for the answers. This lesson has a great line that says, He will answer in proportion to your willingness to hear His voice. Again, that God speaks to me all through the day, but it is up to me to be desirous to listen. I have to want to listen, to hear God's voice, but He's speaking to me all through the day. So today's the practice period are the two 10 to 15 minute sessions, and then 6 or 7 times an hour to say that only God's plan for salvation will work. Only God's plan for my happiness will work. There lies all of the answers. Everything that I could possibly want will come to me from God's plan, because His one plan comes from the one whole healed mind. So there is nothing in it but completeness and joy and release from the world that I appear to be in and am experiencing. Every grievance will be resolved with God's plan for salvation. So let us practice that and accept that today. That's it. I hope this helped. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please comment, please be here tomorrow, and please pray. There's a saying, it's called push, pray until something happens. So let us push. Namaste.